Okay, welcome to this week's episode of The Path Less Chosen, the podcast showing the careers they don't teach you about in school. My name's Sol,
And I'm Jamie.
and this week's episode is with Claudia, who is the founder of Holy Cacao, a bone broth company that has recently or continually been doing very, very well for itself, and excited to get Claudia on. Jamie, what can we expect from Claudia?
Yeah, very much looking forward to this. I have no idea what bone broth is, so hopefully we'll find out what that is. But I think the three biggest things I'm looking forward to, firstly, is how she's getting bone broth back into our diets. Secondly, why a business idea only fails if you quit. And thirdly, how to know in your soul that your path is what you're meant to be doing.
There you go. Love it. And as always, thank you very much for your time on the Path Less Chosen. We'd love if you could just subscribe on any channel that you're watching on, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. It's massively appreciated and it helps us push the pod to people to inspire to and educate about their career choices, which is at the end of the day what we're doing with this podcast. Thank you so much. And let's get Claudia on. Cool. All right. Well, Claudia, so good to have you in. As we say, we've been trying to get you on for quite a long time here, but definitely in a good place now. Before we even introduce you and go into the whole story of Holy Cacao, we just wanted to start to ask with times obviously are good now. They haven't been as good in terms of when you were growing the business. Was there any point where you considered giving it all up?
No. Okay, never. I will never give it up because I think I know in my soul, like, this is what I'm meant to be doing. But that doesn't mean it's not the hardest thing at times. Like, even last week, it felt like everything came to a head with different stresses and nothing was going wrong. And I kind of had to look at everything, being like, everything's going amazing, but why I'm getting stressed right now is because it's going so well and I'm a one-woman team and I can't do all of this on my own. So to answer your question, no, I don't think I'd give up. And someone said to me once, like, it only fails if you quit. And I guess there's whole things with cash flow and stuff like that, but different entrepreneurs have told me, they've been stood on their stairs in their pants, like, I can't do it anymore, I just need to quit. Kept going, and then look where they are. And yeah, so no, I just think I'm going to keep writing this out.
I can relate to that story of being in my pants saying I'm going to quit. That sounds very similar.
It's
Literally.
it's amazing though. I think like looking from my perspective, I imagine this is something that like a few years ago when you first started out, this is probably the stuff you dreamed of being in that position, right? And now it's the stress now, but then when you put it into that perspective, it's like, okay, I'm actually like making some serious progress here, and I would have loved to have been in this position a few years ago, right?
Completely. And I really struggle with that. So I never look back on how far I've come. And it's something I'm trying to really work on now to be grateful for the journey. But I almost think it's a coping mechanism because if I'm like, this has gone really well, there's a higher place to drop. I don't know. I'm just trying to like balance my excitement with things because if something goes wrong, like I say, like it's a longer way to fall. So yeah, I'm very grateful, but it's something that I'm working on completely to tell myself like you've done okay so far.
Yeah, no, I love that. And we're definitely going to get into detail on the journey and things like that. That's obviously part of why we discussed this in terms of what everyone's path has been. But I think also context wise for people listening, and also like, and to be honest, I'll admit that I've never had bone broth or anything like that. So I'd love to know like what actually is the product. And I guess this is your chance to plug or pitch the product as well.
Good.
I'd be keen to hear what exactly it is, yeah, and the brand.
I was thinking about this beforehand, and it's so funny because I live and breathe my product, right? But as soon as someone asks me what it is, I'm like, oh God, what's my product? But so I own a bone broth cacao company, and the whole idea was to get bone broth back into our diets, but in a really delicious way. And I went on a complete health journey myself, cutting out loads of artificial sugars, etc. And I would go into supermarkets, look at something that I genuinely thought was healthy, turn it over, and be like, there is so many ingredients in here that I just don't want to put in my body. Or it just completely lacked in taste. So there really just needed a brand that kind of bridged that gap, that really did health but brought indulgence with it at no compromise. So that's the kind of core of the brand. And we've started with the bone broth cacao, but I have so many ideas, and it's just like that's how it started, but it's just gonna grow, and I just want to stay on that healthy indulgence route.
I love it. I love
Love
it.
it.
And I guess to hear a bit more about then, yeah, so that's how it started. But talk to us about the formulation of the actual business. Because I almost feel like, it's so cool to have seen it and been with you from, I know it wasn't right at the start, but seen it from
Yeah.
kind of it growing into something so cool. So tell people listening, like how the hell did you then go, okay, this is an idea I have. Let's roll with this.
Yeah, I think I definitely have to give credit to my sister and her partner. Josh owns a company called Ape Nutrition, and I mean, my sister, they started it together. So they've taught me a lot about, I guess I've just seen them have this idea and kind of just keep going with it, and it is an amazing place now. So that really influenced me. And when I've thinking about how their career's gone, thinking, okay, I want to do something for myself as well, going on that health journey, and then thinking this product is actually really good. There's a complete gap in the market. Um, it just felt it just felt like it needed to happen, and I kind of knew I wanted to do my own thing anyway. So I'm privileged in the sense that I've got their support, and they've kind of, I guess, trodden that path before, so I can ask them their experience and kind of different tips. But it was a lot of Google searching to find manufacturers and like diving into the products that and the ingredients that I would genuinely want to be in there. And I think like anything, if you do it out of like a demand and a want for yourself, that's such a good starting place. And then you can just really tap into that inner voice, know exactly what you want your product to be, and just like build it out from there.
Yeah, I love that. And I think for people listening as well, obviously you're in a fortunate position where you might have had that kind of wisdom to lean on. And not everyone will have that, but also you were in a position where you had the idea yourself and then you were actually able to utilize the wisdom that they gave you. So probably I think the most obvious question for me would be like what were the key bits of advice and wisdom that they were able to pass on to you that allowed you to get started with something like this?
It's so tricky. I think just someone constantly cheering you on, being like, you've got this, like you can do it. And that's the main thing, because that self-doubt is something that will come in. And I even make a point of jumping on calls now with other people that are in the early stage of their businesses, just because they've been such a great help to me just to be a sounding voice. I would love to be able to pass that on to someone else. So I wouldn't say it was like something in particular they've said.
Right.
Um, just sort of that, like, I guess also you just look at what the life they're living, and like, okay, it's been really hard at times, but you put in the work for yourself, and it's that same story of like you work hard and then you get the benefit at the end of the day. Yeah, I just felt like the in kind of summary of it all is like I just felt like the brand needed to be out there, and I'm
Mm.
just gonna do it anyway.
I love that.
Love it.
And I think this is one of the biggest things that people suffer from at the start. You've touched on it a few times, like the kind of self-belief, lack of imposter syndrome, or at least pushing through the imposter syndrome. I think I'd love to hear your take on that because it feels like you're driven, but you also then talk about needing belief. So how have you married the two together?
It's something that I like am constantly working towards. And even at the stage I'm at now, I'm feeling like I'm needing it more than ever, because I just think once you tap into your brain and your mind, and I'm doing meditations now, one in the morning, one in the evening, just to really try and hone that skill and kind of believe in myself more. And I think actually scrap that. Deep down, like I have every bit of belief in myself. Like I know it's gonna work. It's just more on like the motivation of sometimes being like, if you don't work, it's not gonna happen. And kind of just tapping into your
Mm.
brain in that sense.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. I guess from my point of view, then does like the motivation for it, and I guess a measure of success for you come more from the fact that like you actually do just love your product and believe in your product rather than just having to look at the numbers all day. I imagine that's a much better place to be in, right?
Yeah, oh, this is probably the worst thing to admit as a business owner, but the numbers aren't what drive me. Like I just think there needs to be a genuine need of the product. And I got on a call with someone yesterday and they were talking about a way for the brand to get a kickback through affiliate links and kind of doing like a members only space, and Holy Cacao would then benefit and that'd be a revenue stream. But my brain straight away goes like, okay, why can't we donate that money to a charity or something like that? Like for me, the brand is the products are one thing, the brand is a whole nother thing. And I think it's just gonna keep building, and I've got so many ideas for it and I just wanna, yeah.
Hey Sol here, and I'll keep this interruption very brief, but I want to talk to you about a very exciting new opportunity that we have for you as a listener of the Path Less Chosen podcast. Because if you have skills, knowledge, or expertise in any area at all, then I would like to turn that into a wildly profitable online business. And I'm so confident when I say that because we have done that for 30 people already, building businesses for people who have knowledge of sales, people who have knowledge of ad creatives, people who have knowledge about personal training, people who have knowledge about nutrition. All of these industries can be turned into profitable online businesses that will allow you to work when and where and with who and on what you want. And I wanted to say, as to thank you as a listener of the Path Less Chosen podcast, that we are offering you a completely no strings attached 15-minute roadmap call where we will paint the whole journey of how you can turn your expertise in any area into an online business. And if that sounds interesting, then what you can do is you can find the link in the description to either the podcast episode you're listening to or the YouTube video, and you can book in a call with my team and we will paint the whole roadmap for you. So if that sounds interesting, check out the link in the description and I look forward to seeing you on there.
Okay, so did any of it? Oh, sorry, you crack on.
Oh, that's so kind of you. The one thing I'd love to say that is you have you have the ideas, which I love. How do you stay focused with, because I think we all know as people in entrepreneurial spaces, obviously Jamie does a bit of a 9 to 5, but apart from that, as me and you as true entrepreneurs, we know about the focus that you need. And how do you stay focused on a few things, one thing, as opposed to seeing, like, you must just see every day with this brand the amount of possibilities you can take it down.
Don't think I do stay focused. Like it's something, if you look at all my school reports, they're like Claudia gets excited about one thing and moves on to the next thing. And so even when me and you first met, I had just started the thought of Holy Cacao and it was kind of building and I got a new business idea and you were like, whoa, just get good at one
I
thing.
remember that I
Yeah,
remember so well that moment.
yeah. And it's something I've got to check myself on, but I also don't necessarily think it's a bad thing to be thinking about your next steps and like, and I guess with this whole journey, everyone and like being an entrepreneur, everyone is winging it. So like I'm learning new skills as I go. And one of my skills that I'm learning is like how to stay focused. And it's just something that just comes with the journey. So I'm not an expert at this. Like no one is being an entrepreneur, like unless you've done it a load of times. It's always like new skills you're up leveling. So like learning to focus on one thing and getting some systems in place is definitely something that I'm trying to build on for sure.
I imagine, like, to be honest, like to begin with, that's probably actually a benefit though, right? Having like all these different ideas and always like jumping, like that's probably part of like having the entrepreneurial bug that people refer to, because the people that go down this kind of path are the ones that are able to think of all these different ideas. So how do you find that as a kind of a balancing act? Because I guess in your industry, although I guess the brand is obviously very unique in itself, but those new ideas are probably what's going to help the brand continue to grow. So is it a tricky like balancing act, having to work out when you focus your energy and when you just come up with new ideas?
Yeah, and that's why I felt like it all came to a head last week because I'm like, to grow the brand, these things would massively help grow the brand, but I've got to do all the admin stuff as well, and then balancing cash flow that I can't really hire someone to do all that admin is, so that's kind of where all my kind of stress came to an ahead last week. And now I'm kind of, again, I'm learning and I'm growing in the sense of being like, okay, to build the brand, this does need to happen. So how are we going to get the cash for this? And yeah, it's kind of just like sitting with it for a bit. Like everything goes crazy at one point, and then you just sit with it and it comes a bit clearer. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to go down this path and just like go with it. And if it doesn't
Yeah,
work,
it makes sense.
just go back and try something else.
No, makes sense. I mean, it sounds quite pivotal in terms of your mindset, at least, of what happened last week. So, what did happen last week?
Honestly, nothing bad. Like everything
Right.
was going well. In like the one day we got Sophie Habu messaging me, who's got nearly a million, ordering, sorry, and following. She's got nearly a million followers. Rochelle Humes has got like 2 point something million followers posted. I had Emily English, who's got 2 million followers, in my DMs saying how much she loves the product. And I'm like, why am I stressed right now? This is amazing. But I think it's, I don't know, I think just when you care so much about the brand, um, and I was like, right, I need to grow it. I need like there's serious legs on this. And I was just thinking like I can't do it on my own. And weirdly, this is I don't know if you guys are kind of spiritual, I'm maybe not, and but
I've dabbled. I've been in Bali long enough to be. I'm on that. I'm getting there.
so this is for the listeners. If you think I'm woo-woo, just like skip over this bit. But I basically cried to my sister. I just was really distressed about how I need to grow it. But I don't have the resources to hire people. Later that day, I had 3 random people on Instagram message me asking if I was hiring. And like, I don't know, I'm just really tapping into like the universe and signs at the moment. And I did nothing about that. I didn't put out a job thing. She didn't message anyone. Like, and these people were just asking if they could do work experience or they just wanted to help with the brand. And yeah, it was just a really cool moment. So I've been having some good conversations and I feel excited.
I love that.
Amazing.
I love that. And don't worry, we definitely have a whole range of audience. But what I like about this and why I feel that I was so keen to get you on is I feel it's in this space it's super easy to for us, pick some of the mates that we get and we get guys in and it's all easy for guys to sit there. And what I love, and I don't want to make it about gender, but I think it's very cool and very inspiring that you are you're a female founder and you're super confident in it. How so weird, like I think it's cool to be able to have that episode and have that different diverse opinion.
Yeah.
And how have you found the world of maybe I don't know if you find it obviously you're in health and beauty, so hopefully it's not too gender specific, but how have you found that like female founder route that you're on?
So I actually love this question. I really appreciate that you asked it, more so because I've been thinking about it a lot lately. And I genuinely believe that I need to tap into masculine energy at times for the business. And I now am learning to tap more into my feminine energy as well because it's quite hard to be. I've been finding I've been quite like straight to the point, like more direct, like, and I don't want to be like that in life the whole time. So there are times definitely where I tap into that masculine energy if I'm on a call or like talk to the manufacturer and I need to be more serious. But something that I love doing now, and most of my audience, I would say like 95% of them are women, I chat to everyone in my DMs at the moment, and it takes a lot of time, but I genuinely think it's one of the things that has grown the business to where it is now because I've got such a loyal community that I'm growing. And I think it's because I'm jumping on voice notes, I'm sending like heart emojis. People are telling me that they're going on holiday, and like we're just genuinely creating this like incredible group of women, and women want to support women. Um, Especially because I'm not backed by, you know, a big company or anything. Like it's just me. And I think women really resonate with that. And I'm loving that aspect of it. But it is interesting. Like I've been in meetings with men and I'm not hating on them like at all. I think it's amazing to take different parts from different genders. Um, but they were all like, yeah, don't go organic because it's cheaper. I thought, right, I'm always going to be organic because it's something that I genuinely want. I'll get all your blends from China. It doesn't matter about the quality. The consumer won't know. And I'm like, oh God, like, come on. We're not all about margins here.
God.
Like, yes, you want to make a profit at some point and at the end of the day, but I, the feminineness in me is like, we've got to do things out of integrity. Like, and I feel like maybe it's stereotypical, but men are quite margin heavy. Like, let's look at the top line and that's it. But I'm like, but there's loads of little things that kind of contribute to that. So yeah, I don't know if that really answered your question, but I am just like balancing that masculine and feminine energy. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And it's like,
Sorry.
no. We actually, I just said, can I ask another question on this? Because I'm so fascinated by this. Because the more, like, I obviously have some female clients, and it's really interesting to see how they approach things in a different way, and it's super cool because as you see, as you say, we're so blind to things like quality, to things like anything that doesn't increase the bottom line, like all these things, right? So I love
Terrible
that.
reflection on men, that.
I think it's just they're less emotionally aware, maybe, without being a massive like stereotyping everyone. Like I feel like it might just come down to emotion, maybe.
Yeah, it does sound like a terrible reflection, but it's so interesting. I guess like, and it's an attention to detail thing as well, right? But the right kind of details to help build the brand. I mean, I couldn't believe when you said there that like you're still replying to absolutely everyone. I guess it was maybe easier at the start. That must be becoming harder and harder by the day to make sure you reply to all these messages. Like, how do you even decide that like those are the small things? And it's amazing to hear that you think that does make such a significant difference. But moving forward and to play, I guess, a bit of a devil's advocate. I guess as a one man band at the moment, one woman band, sorry, of course, but how is it then scalable to keep replying to all your DMs?
I
Yeah.
love that. The one word you had to use properly, you got wrong.
Totally wrong.
Um, yeah, it's not scalable. I mean, I think it's all a
Yeah.
process. So when I first started, every order had a handwritten note from me. And then,
Wow.
yeah, and it just got to the point where it was just too much. I even had my mum and dad writing out handwritten notes at one point because it was just like there was so many to go through. And then I guess the next stage was still always being on the DMs and I don't know, like the other morning I woke up with about it was about 70 DMs on my in my Instagram. And I was like, "Ah, how can you get through all of this?" But at the end of the day, these are the people that are buying from me, and these are the people that are making the brand. And I always say, like, the product is incredible. It is what it is. But the thing that's going to really build the brand is all the incredible customers that are on the journey with us. So, no, it's not scalable and it will have to change at some point, but I will always, if I can, keep it a priority. And a voice note for me takes a minute, 30 seconds. A message takes so much longer. So that's why I just bash them out on like voice notes. And I think it's nicer and it's tapping into that feminine energy of like, I don't want to send you a block paragraph. I would rather draw in. So someone might say, "Can I take this while I'm pregnant?" I've got a standard answer to say. But then I also like to add in, but my sister's just recently had a baby and this is what she did. And I don't know, it's just building that connection and it's something I'll look at, but I think for me, things like that are a priority. Like I just launched in Darts Farm, it's a local farm shop near us.
Amazing.
The amount of people that have sent me photos that I don't know of the product on the shelves. And someone even said like she felt like it was like seeing Victoria Beckham in the supermarket. She was so starstruck. And I don't know this woman. So it just shows like it's important to do things like this. It does make all the difference.
Yeah, I imagine as well, maybe it's like this day and age thing as well with social media and building a brand across there. But it seems like you've actually built a really strong community. Is that something that you always like had an intention to do, or is it just something that's happened naturally because it's a product that I guess leans towards something like that?
Yeah, I think the business side of me knows like how important a community is. Like you look at things like Pure Sport with all their run clubs, they've done insane. And a lot of it, I think, has been built on that community aspect. And for me, it's still something I'm navigating at the moment because I don't really want a run club. It doesn't really feel right for the brand. But also, it's trying to build the community in a way that feels aligned. So while it's still all in the pipeline, and this is something I'm currently building out at the moment to try and like really make that community more of a thing, this is a way that it keeps people involved. And they've got the time of day to listen to me, so I should have the time of day. I don't know. I just,
It's a
yeah,
good way of putting it.
yeah. I like. Without them, I would have no business. So if I can jump on a voice note and I can ask them how their day's going, how their week's going, why not?
I love it. I love it. Very good. I bang on to people about that every day with my clients to say, yeah, just be more of a human. So I love that. I love that approach. Yeah. I guess like just one of the things I'd love to know more about is just a bit more for the kind of entertainment factor of anyone listening about some of the hectic parts of it, because I know there's been times when you've had like orders flying in and you still, before, I think before, I'm going to use the wrong term, but else was doing the fulfillment part. Like before that was not automatic and all that sort of thing. There must have been some absolutely crazy moments.
Yeah, it's so cool. And these are kind of the moments where if you can sit back and take it in, it's like, okay, wow, this is happening right now. And so it started off, I was posting orders out from, I was in London at the moment, a London flat. Um, there weren't too many orders, but there were enough. Then I moved back down to Devon, moved all the stock back to Devon with my parents, and it was crazy. Like my mum's got a little bit of OCD. If she listens to this, she'll kill me for saying it, but she does. And fair enough, she likes the house to be really nice, and having loads of boxes of stock filling up her spare room and her spare bathroom, she was just like not loving it. And then we had, I think the main one was when Emily English posted, and it was organic and it went crazy. And we did so many orders. I think it was like 350, 400 orders. And every order we were handpicking, checking, okay, they've ordered that, they've ordered this whisk, make it look nice, add the note, build the box. It was a lot. So I had
Wow.
it was me trying to like sort out all the orders and print out all the labels. My granddad came over with my uncle, so they were building the boxes. My dad, we laugh at him because he's like stock control now. He like loves making sure everything used to look perfect, and my mum was doing something too. So I think it's insane. Like I actually felt so dizzy during all of that. I don't know if I should say this. I was so overwhelmed with like, because my mind will then go to, right, there's 400 orders, amazing, but 400 of those could go missing in the post, or 400 people could not like it. And I think just because you care so much, there's that pressure. But over time, like that's kind of dropped now. I'm not as stressed about that. And that's again, it's just like a leveling up in a way. But I feel like I've rambled here. But yeah, it's been a lot. And now we're lucky enough to have a 3PL, so it's a third party logistics center, and all the orders just get go straight to their system, and then they post it out for us. So it's definitely a lot easier, because it got to the point that packing orders for however many hours a day is just not a good use of my time because I can't do anything else. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's cool to look back on and being like, we really did start from the startup phase of waiting for a single order to come in a day to now, where we are now.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's really important to mention, I think, because ultimately, when you are starting a brand,
Mm.
that's the exciting parts when you suddenly start getting orders in. But people probably need to realize that they are going to go down that route. Some days are going to be stressful, particularly when they're going to have to fill 400 orders in a day or something like that. But yeah, amazing to obviously see the growth you've gone through. And then how is it looking for the next few years? Like, do you have a kind of big plan in mind, or are you just taking like each day as it comes, with weeks like last week and then whatever might happen in the future?
So this is kind of where I've realized like there needs to be an overall plan. And to this point, everything was pretty much just winging it. And like if it works, it works. And I think to an extent, it will still be a lot of that. But I'm actually going to bring someone on now I've got a few more people that are only doing a couple of hours a week, say, but someone can help me with my socials, or someone can help me with more of like the operations and strategic planning. Because for me, I would like at least 60% of my customers to be on subscription. And that's like my top line goal for the end of the year. And I've just like kind of outlined, okay, every aspect, whether it's website, socials, ads, Amazon, what can they all individually do to reach that top goal? And I think this is maybe knowing my limit or kind of downfalls is I'm not really good at getting all that in place. So I'm having someone come on which I think will be really beneficial to the business of being like, this is the year plan, and we're just going to sit down and do a couple of hours and be like, this is what we need to prioritize where to reach that 60% subscriber rate. So
Amazing. Yeah, it's good. Good. No, good to have the goals and I guess a bit more like a focus in mind for moving forward. I imagine that's something that's difficult and probably changes month to month, right? But really interesting for now, and I'm keen to obviously keep track of it. And I'm definitely sure it's going to be a success anyway. But I think Sol's probably already shared the final question with you, but it's the one we asked to everyone. So if you were go back probably to the time where you first conceived of the idea, maybe. What's one thing from that point forward that you do the same, one thing you do differently, and one thing you tell yourself to motivate yourself?
One thing I do the same would just be like really tap into that inner voice and just hone in on it, because ultimately I'm building the brand from me. And there isn't really anything out there like it. So I can listen to other people's opinions, but I'm the one that's growing it. So I think just really getting clear on like my internal voice. One thing I do different would be to order the next batch of stock quicker. So I was stock for 2 months and I knew, so it sold out. It had done really well, and it was just getting over something that I haven't learned before, and I was a little bit slower, which probably cost me about 2 weeks of time, but it is what it is. I'll be quicker next time. But I think it's just like taking from that is give yourself time to make a decision. Say you give yourself like, I don't know, 3 days, then that's your cutoff point, and the decision has to be made by then. Because otherwise I will just keep thinking about it for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And I don't even know, what was your last question? Sorry?
One thing to motivate yourself.
Just keep going. Let's go. Like, I feel like we're just
Very
on
good.
this journey and I'm not stopping. So yeah.
Love it.
Like things are gonna get tough, but I just think I'm just gonna keep going.
I love that. It's such a good.
Beautiful.
I think the simplicity in that answer is cool, because sometimes we get people say just keep going, and sometimes we get people saying this rousing speech. And actually, I love that mindset, which is it is just like just next job sort of thing, next job,
Yeah.
which is so cool. I love that, and I think that sums up nicely the episode, and also sums up what you're smashing is just that like continual, just keep grinding away, keep plucking away, keep finding things out, which is so cool. It's been amazing to be able to witness the journey all the way from an idea and chatting about it in Megan's cafe in London all the way to out here in Bali together, which is so cool. So thank you so much, Claudia, for coming on. And as I said in the
Yeah.
intro, when you're dominating the health food world and sector, we'll beg to have you back on as well, please.
I'll make an exception.
So kind, so kind. But yeah, love it, and it's very
It's been
inspirational. Thank you so much for your time.
nice to chat.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, I've known Claudia for a while, so amazing to see the journey she's been on and the brand she's building now. Obviously, the product's doing amazing, and the community she's building around it is fantastic. So, really interesting to kind of pick her brains on the whole entrepreneurial side of things. I had a few key takeaways, so if you don't mind, I'll kick off first. And one thing I really liked, which I think maybe with some entrepreneurs they don't really touch on or emphasize or place enough importance on compared to what she does and what everyone perhaps should do. But the way that she just purely just values her customers, she's so fully like acutely aware of the fact that without them she will have no business whatsoever. And she put it really nicely where when she just said, look, if they have the time of day for me, then why can't I just make the time for them? And a lot of people listening that maybe are thinking about going down a business route might be purely money driven. They might be thinking, right, well, I just want to go into business and get as many customers as possible because then I make as much money as possible. But what she's done is kind of flipped it on its head and thought, well, actually, why don't I just treat my customers really nicely? And long term, that might be really difficult when you're scaling a business to become massive. But when you're starting out, clearly that's been really successful with her. She's building a really nice community around the brand that are fully supportive of what she's doing and that she care about what she's doing, and she cares back, which is a massive benefit for her. So she's actually being driven by the product and the community rather than being driven by the numbers around it and the business around it, which is a really interesting takeaway for me.
100%. Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. And it's so interesting having that conversation with versus the kind of revenue driving monkeys and all that sort of thing that we talk about. So that's really cool. And I think it's going to sound weird, but I'm going to go for what her last takeaway was, which is I kind of wrapped it up by saying just keep moving, and I just love that. Like I get almost shit from it from some of my team members, which is good, bad, whatever happens, stress, just next step, next thing, and that's a good mindset to have in good and in bad. And I think she summed it up nicely, which is she's had amazing things happen with the people messaging her and all the orders flying off the shelves, but also had tough times and everything. It's just keep moving. I like that a lot.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a really nice one that can apply to pretty much any career path you want to go down, right? But yeah, sounds good. And then the last one for me, I think she acknowledged it quite early on in the episode that she feels herself this is maybe a flaw of what she's doing, where she's not looking back on how far she's come enough, and this is something that she's actually trying to work on. And I think ultimately, when I asked her about like what had happened last week, which was obviously a huge kind of pivotal moment in her business and her path, but those kind of achievements, those kind of customers, that kind of engagement with her brand and product is something that a lot of entrepreneurs will dream of when they start coming up with a product and a brand and start building it from the ground up. And to be able to then reflect on it and thinking like, wow, I've come so far, and actually, I'm kind of living my dream now. Maybe it's quite difficult in that moment where you're feeling stressed with certain things going on. But even she was acknowledging there on the pod that she was like, why am I feeling stressed? This is exactly what I'm aiming towards. So I think if anyone is listening to that and maybe they're in a position where they're a year down the line, and I know you do this quite a bit, Sol, in terms of when you look back, but like the actual progress you've made is insane. And if anyone's not seen the video where Sol looks back at like 2024 him versus 2025, it's worth watching because it will help you like put it into perspective that you can make a lot of progress, and that's something that she's improving at, getting better than. And for her to be able to share that with us on this episode is really useful for people listening, and then they'll know it as well when they're going down their path. So I like that takeaway a lot.
Man, so good. Completely agree. And it's so important to take stock because yeah, it's like that's almost in a nice way, it's opposite to what I was saying, which is good to keep moving, but it's also very important to take stock and be like, yeah, look how far I've come. So yeah, really good, mate. 3 takeaways from there is build a community, keep going on the same path and just keep pushing. But also your third one, which I love, which is also make sure to take stock of your progress as well, which is super cool. Mate, very, very good. Thank you very much for making it to the end of the episode. Claudia was an unreal guest, and we look forward to bringing you an absolute banger again next week. Thanks for your time.